10 random magic cards rated day 79, everybody. What is it, Wednesday or something? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Nailed it. All right, let's see what the first card of Hump Day is, everyone. It's Banal Shiro. One of the worst cards of all time. This is a single white mana for a 1/1 human soldier with banding. What is that? We've explained it a couple of times, but I always like to read the reminder text. Any creatures with banding and up to one without banding can attack in a ban. Bans are blocked as a group. If any creatures with banding you control are blocking or being blocked by a creature, you divide that creature's combat damage, not its controller, among any of the creatures it's being blocked by or is blocking. Okay, so that's still, the reminder text just does not help. But basically, you get to split up damage, whether it's blocking or attacking or whatever's happening. If you're attacking in a band or blocking in a band. Yeah, I had to like make sure that it was correct. If any creatures with banding control are blocking or being blocked by a creature. Okay, so yeah. I thought I was wrong for a second, and sometimes I am. I admit that it's realistic. I could be wrong. So, yeah, banding does mean blocking or blocked by. You get to split the damage up. Even I, an old head who knows what this ability is, will get tripped up from time to time. Banding's bad. The card's bad. It's bad. Skip Banal Shiro, a 1.1. I guess it attacks and blocks, and she's pretty. She is pretty, but we'll move on to Life from the Loam. That's much better. That is many, many times better. Originally printed in Ravnica, City of Guilds. 2 mana, 1 and a green for a sorcery. Return up to 3 target land cards from your yard to your hand, and you can also dredge 3. So that means that instead of drawing a card anytime you might draw a card, not just your draw step, you can put exactly 3 cards from the top of your library into your yard. If you do, return this card from your yard to your hand. So pretty neat. You can skip draw steps and skip just draws, from like brainstorms or whatever, to continuously get lands back from your hand. And there are a whole lot of reasons to do that. The card still holds a pretty good price too, man. It's like Ravnica Remastered is $643, but that's like the cheapest on-screen price for this card. There's a reason for that, man. Card's phenomenal. Card's really, really good, dude. This kind of did too many important things to count. Like while it was in standard, while it was in extended, while it was in modern, it still does stuff in Commander. Just what a phenomenal Magic card this always has been, dude. Everything from landfall to just like random, land decks will play this thing. Seismic Assault decks used to play it back in the day on the kitchen table and stuff. Just crazy card. You'd be surprised. Absolutely insane this card is. 7.9 for Life from the Loam. I think it deserves that. After all this time, I think it deserves a 7.9. I'll move on to Kimas Banner here. This is 4 mana for an equipment. It's an artifact. It equips for a 2 and a white, but it also has 4 Mirrodin. So when it ETBs, create a 2/2 red rebel creature token and then attach this thing to it. The equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. So it turns it into one of these guys. Okay, and it just gives you a 2/2 as well, so that means it's going to be at least a 3/3 when it comes into play. That's not good for 4 mana, but if you have like 3 other guys, it's relatively big. This isn't horrible, I guess, especially considering it being equipment. Being able to strap it to anything, and if that dies, you still strap it to something else, and it gets like +4/+4. I don't know. With each creature that dies, it gets slightly worse. It's like really bad against sweepers and stuff too. So there's obvious counterplay. It's a little expensive, but I'm still going to give Banner like a 4.4. Like these cards aren't terrible when you do see them. I don't mind them. But we'll move on to Stone Rain. Good old Stone Rain. What's my favorite Stone Rain art? I do like Mirage. Where's Ice Age. Yeah. Anytime I get to look at a folio art piece, this time it's Kaya folio. I'm going to take that chance. Yeah, Stone Rain is just 3 mana. 2 and a red, sorcery, destroy target land. Iconic. Super iconic card back in the day. Cornerstone of Panza, land destruction kind of decks. LD would not have existed without Stone Rain and Strip Mine and stuff. Pillage later on. Just, God, I miss the days of LD, but nobody else does. It's a very annoying deck to play against. I'm going to give Stone Rain the honorary 5 of the day. I can tell you that right now, because I think Stone Rain is probably actually like a 4.1, and that hurts my heart. That hurts every last bit of my heart because this card had a time, you know? I don't know if its time will ever come again. Sometimes you see it in simplified cubes. I put it in simplified cubes along with Pillage and Thermokarst. Sometimes Sinkhole and Ice Storm, and like you can kind of brew up a land destruction deck in cube, but people tend to also hate that, so I don't put it. I don't do it in all my cubes. But still, Stone Rain honorary 5 of the day, all day, every day. I love this card. I always will. There's a guy in New York that collects nothing but Stone Rain. You may have heard of him. Stone Rain Dan or something like that. I might forget his name, his actual first name, but it's like Stone Rain Dan or something. And he's got like literally 1 million Stone Rains, 10,000 Stone Rains or something. This card means something to some people, and that's for a reason. But we'll move on to Orin, Reef, and Voker here. 2 mana, originally printed in Battle for Zendikar. 1 and a green for a 2/2 human shaman. 8. Pay 8, and it gets +5/+5 and gains trample till end of turn. I like when my 2-drops have some value later on in the game, but I feel like this is a bit much. But a 7/7 trampler, it could be worse. Could be better though. I'll give this a 2. I'll give this a 2. Why wouldn't I? Let's look at Throne of Eldrain. Originally printed in Wilds of Eldrain Commander, oddly enough. You'd think it would have been printed in Throne of Eldrain, but no. 5 mana for a legendary artifact. As it enters the battlefield, choose a color. Tap, add 4 mana of the chosen color. Spend this mana only to cast mono-colored spells of that color. Pay 3, tap it, draw 2 cards. Spend only mana of the chosen color to activate this ability. Okay, so it's got 4 mana on it, and you can also draw 2 cards. And it doesn't even sack to do that. You just draw 2 extra cards every turn if you can, if you got the mana for it. What color do you play it in, though? White. You play it in mono white because mono white can do everything. Like you can destroy artifacts, you can destroy enchantments, you can destroy creatures, you can destroy planeswalkers. You can play enchantments that are good and draw you cards. You can draw cards in mono white. You can play good creatures, you can play small creatures, you can play fat creatures, you can play value creatures, you can play ETB creatures. Just white does it all. So I think it's probably where you play this, but maybe you play it in green where the ramp is slightly better, it's fine. Maybe play it in black because black can do a lot too, really. And it has good expensive cards, boy. It does too. And it wants to draw the cards. Every color wants to draw cards. I'm just trying to figure out where to play this. Maybe you don't even have to play it in a monocolored deck, but I think you probably should. 5 mana it kind of seems like a lot, but obviously this card's expensive. If you haven't looked over the price yet, it's like $13 to $15 to order this card. And there is definitely a reason, man. 4 mana and draw on the same card. Draw 2 even. Draw 2 is crazy. This card gets like and again, we're mostly ranking for casual commander here, but that's what the card's meant for. So I'm going to give this like 7.1, dude. 5 mana is so much, but like, look what it does once it comes out. It can basically pay for itself almost, like once it comes out. That seems good. I like this. I've never seen this in my life. I think it's awesome. Water Veiled Cavern is up next. Only ever printed in Champions of Kamigawa. It's an uncommon dual land. You can tap it, pay 1, or tap it and add 1. It's even better. Tap it and add 1 to your mana pool. Or you can tap it and add blue or black to your mana pool, and it doesn't untap during your next untap step. No, it's one of these. There were cards like this printed in like Tempest, I think it was, where they were dual lands, and I believe they were untapped as well, but they when you use them, they don't untap next turn. And these are pretty bad. These are pretty awful for the most part, even for dual lands. Even for untapped duels, they're pretty bad. So I'm just going to give it a 4.9, which is like the lowest you'll ever see me give a dual land. But yeah, they really should untap next turn or they're not very good. So move on to Prey Upon. What do you give? What do you give Prey Upon? This is a single green mana for a sorcery. Target creature you control fights a creature you don't control. Bite effects are better unless you want your guy to be dealt damage, and there are reasons why you might want to. But ultimately, Prey Upon is just a classic green removal spell. Regreenville. It doesn't work quite as well as Rebluval does. But yeah, there's probably a lot better options now that are just bites for like a single mana, But Prey Upon's still okay. I'm going to give the card a 4.8. Sometimes you'll play a 4.8, right? A few years ago, it would have been like a 5.1, right? Oh, it's a really good green removal spell. But I think we've kind of passed by Prey Upon in terms of like the value we're looking for nowadays. But final card of today's video is Urzas Tower. Wow, okay. So I think we've done the Urza stuff before and we've given them an 8. And so I also said, like, when we get to the Urzas, you know, the other Urzas cards, I'll have to skip them. So they're basically like one thing, you know what I mean? But if you have the mine, the tower, and the power plant out, you get 7 total combined mana between those 3 lands. That's good. It gets an 8. There's been a lot of decks built around this trio of lands. But I don't think it counts because I think we basically already done the card. So that means we get to do Sulphurous Springs, a much, much better, much better dual land than the one we just looked at. Sulphurous Springs. Oh, let's look at the Ice Age one with the little imp guy in it that I love so much. Although, you got to give that 5th edition art with the palm trees and the color palette and like the old school yellow text box. Like, I love this Sulphurous Springs, like, a lot. Like, an awful lot, but something about Ice Age, dude. It's Phil Folio. It's Phil Folio week. It's Folio week here on the channel. Talked about his cards a lot, but it's because I love this art. Oh God, it's hilarious. Like, there's just something really funny about Phil Folio art. But still, it's a land. Comes into play untapped. Taps for a colorless, or you can pay it, tap it and add a black, and that'll deal a damage to you. You can tap it out of red. That deals damage to you. You probably know what Sulphurous Springs does. We call these pain lands. A lot of them, they're all currently like in standard. And they're very good. I actually think these are in like the top 5 dual lands ever printed ever in the history of Magic. They're actually like the 2nd dual land ever printed, right? Because we had the original duels. And then in Ice Age, we got these. And I'm not sure that we had dual lands in, you know, Arabian Nights? No. The Dark? No. Antiquities? No. Legends? No. No, we didn't. So yeah, I think this is like this. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure this is the 2nd cycle of dual lands ever printed in the history of Magic. And good Lord, these are still very good. These are still incredible. If you compare them to Shocks, you can't fetch them with fetch lands and stuff, so they're not like quite as good as Shocks because they don't have the right like land type. But still, you know, if you tap these twice, then you've played an untapped Shock. And Shocks are like the best, like the 2nd best dual lands ever printed ever in Magic. So I would say these are in the top 5 or possibly even the top 3. Like, these are phenomenal, and I'm doing a lot of hemming and hawing, but I'm going to, it's not the last card of the day. There's one more after this. Nice. But yeah, I'm going to have to give this a 8.4. Sure. 8.4, man. 8.4. I don't know if anyone's going to contest that, but yeah, these are that good. They really are. Witigo, yeah, another Ice Age card. I love Witigo, dude. So let's look at the actual Oracle text for Witigo and see how it differs from my memory. This is a 6 mana, 3 and 3 green for a Yeti. It's a 0/0 Yeti that enters with 6 +1/+1 counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on Witigo if it has blocked or been blocked since your last upkeep. Otherwise, remove a +1/+1 counter on it. So what does it say in Ice Age Day terms? When it comes into play, put 6 +1/+1 counters on it. During your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on Witigo if it has been blocked or blocked. If it has blocked or been blocked since your last upkeep. Otherwise, remove a +1/+1 counter from Witigo. Ignore this effect if there are no counters left on Witigo. Oddly enough, I feel like I remember it being worded a lot more complicated than that, but it's not. The idea is that your opponent can just let this in or not attack into it, and it will gradually get smaller. But then your opponent sure is giving you a lot of time. And if they're letting it attack in and not blocking it, then suddenly they're going to die before it shrinks all the way. You know, like it's going to kill them most of the time before it becomes a 0/0. So pretty sick. Witigo was actually kind of a win condition for some like mono green and like green ramp decks back in the day. And it's a cool card. Never really saw much play on the competitive scene, but on the kitchen table, we played some Witigo kids. So I'm going to give, have I already given the honorary 5? Stone Rain. Was that today's video? I think it was. That's sad. I'm going to have to give Witigo like a 4.7 realistically, but in my heart, this is a big part of my childhood. I love this art, you know, always will. I always will love this art. And it's just a cool, Witigos are cool, you know, it's like a Wendigo kind of, it's just as far as like the folklore of a Witigo is awesome. So there's just a lot of things I like about this card. I never minded catching it in the rare slot of an Ice Age pack. And me and my friends all played with this card at various points of our kitchen table careers. So big fan of Wito. And I wish I could give it a much higher score. Still neat though. Still neat. You know, it's a 6/6 and it grows into a 7/7, 8/8, 9/9, depending on like what it's done. Right. So love this card. And that's about it. That's all I've got for today, everybody. Hope that the rest of your Wednesday is fine. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye.